That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly alarmed here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews. This is Masters of the Dirtiverse Reviews, where we take a look at some of cinemas in the small screens, cinematic supernovas, and some shows that are not so brightly lit. This baby cargo of a podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and of course, Spotify. It's green, just like me, Mike G. And back with me is the man himself. He needs no further introduction. Brian, what's going on with your balls?
What up, man? Glad to be here. Little discussion that we are going to be having this afternoon.
It's a bit of a discussion.
I'm stoked. Thanks for having me.
Of course, sir. You own your own quadrant of the Nerdiverse.
Hey,
you know?
That's fantastic. I will take a parsec
you have
to get here.
As long as you have a vehicle that can get there in time, you know?
I do.
And understand it's not a measure of distance, but a measure of what?
I don't know.
See?
I don't know.
Star Wars nerds, guys. We know it all.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a friend the other day, like the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. You know what I mean? Kind of like how if you had the right tools, you could just build a tricorder, but you know, to explain how light speed works.
Like, right? Like, what? Well, why would you ever beam down to a planet?
Because you got to get there.
I mean, you could just land on the planet and walk out. Like, Star Wars doesn't live in that oxygen deprived universe.
Think about it like
Star Trek does.
Like it's a giant, like an aircraft carrier doesn't dock, right? It just has smaller boats that go out into the land, get what they need to get back, and go back to the base.
Gas.
So, like, Enterprise is this huge machine that can't just land on some primitive planet. So, I guess you got to put out the lifeboat and go down there and see what's cracking. Beam down, man.
Definitely going to be a conversation for another
That's
day.
That's a whole other podcast about Star Trek logistics.
With Picard upon us and such. So
Picard is coming up, though.
Would you like to see Picard in
No.
Stars?
No.
All right.
But I have to. It's the nature of the business we're in. I got to at least check out the first episode.
Right. Excellent. Well,
this is my hell.
Much like Picard, we have another bald young figure on the screen.
Wow. As we live and breathe. And as you know, this episode, we're going to be discussing and reviewing Disney's own, Disney Plus's own, The Mandalorian.
I think Disney and Disney Plus are going to be the same thing. So
I think they are.
So doesn't matter.
It's a homunculus, isn't it?
The money's all funneling
to the same three pockets, man.
A lot of money.
So much pockets.
And
dude.
I think The Mandalorian brought in a lot of money for this movie.
As quiet as it may be told, The Mandalorian shaping the future of the Star Wars universe, I think. Single-handedly. Mind you, given, you know, controversies of their film productions, The Mandalorian's the only solid outing this company's had since the Disney acquisition. Hot take.
Am 100% going to agree with you. This is such a breath of fresh air from Disney / Star Wars productions. So, I am so stoked to be on this podcast and be able to talk a tad bit of Mando with you.
Let's talk some Commando Mando, man. So, this show, from my understanding, has been a long time coming. You know what I mean? In regards to how they wanted to package this particular type of story. Because originally this was going to be a movie. They're going to make this into a movie. But then Disney started to really roll out their streaming services. What original content can we put out that's a tester? Because the production of the show was not very expensive. was actually on the low for them. You know what I mean? So they're like, what can we put out that's cheap, that's going to have our branding, and that could be a tester for this whole Disney Plus thing? Because this is kind of reminds me of when Iron Man was first made in Marvel Studios.
It had $100 million budget.
But for Disney?
For a television show.
For Disney?
But for a television show.
Compare this to, like, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones didn't have $100 million budget. This, to date, I want to say, was the most expensive outing for a television show, with the exception of the upcoming Lord of the Rings series on Amazon. Which is
I thought
$1
this
billion.
was on the cheap.
No, not cheap. Not cheap at all. Each episode, I want to say, clocked in around the 20-30 million mark.
But maybe that's kind of a testament to the atmosphere of this show.
Well,
it feels grounded,
and
maybe that's where I got that from.
You know what I would say? It's a testament of, you know what, we better spend some money on this show, and I don't know well, obviously it was Jon Favreau and
Taika Waititi, actually.
And he was directed one episode.
But I heard he had a lot to, like, do with this, like, on the behind the scenes. Like, Taika really had his fingers in the pie of this series. For a lot of it, from my understanding.
Dave Filoni, for the love of God.
Yeah.
The great and fantastic Dave Filoni, who brought us the Clone Wars.
100%.
So, you know, they gave these guys a budget to go out here and make a story that was going to impact Star Wars fans, which, you know, as we had said, probably their most successful outing doing this thus far.
Thus far. And that's really going to bother some people, because there's some, you know, there's the new generation trilogy apologists out there, which I definitely get. All those movies aren't bad, but this is the closest thing we've had to Star Wars that feels like genuine old school Star Wars since Return of the Jedi?
By far. Easy. Hands down.
It doesn't feel like the new stuff they've been pushing out.
No, and as I went through my second watch of this, I really started to, what's the difference between this and everything else that's new?
Mm-hmm.
And what I got was not only that this is grounded, but this is dark. Star Wars has had a dark undertone to it
forever.
Like good Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. Like there were always moments that were just, you just felt an unease.
Luke in the cave, right?
Luke in the cave, Luke in the dark, when Vader's walking around talking about
him stalking
your
him.
sister. Like,
sister.
Like, there were just moments, and Mando came out here, and the entire setting is just bleak.
It's not really dark, it's bleak.
And we're not going to talk too much about the new ones, but as a comparison to what I'm saying, the new ones are like a 64 Crayola box thrown on screen, man.
I'm sitting here thinking about it. The new ones feel like a byproduct or a reaction to the prequels, where this feels like a byproduct or reaction to the original trilogy.
Correct. And
you know what I'm saying?
That's Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, in my opinion.
Like Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of the Skywalker all feel like a reaction to the prequels.
And they had to be something different, too.
They have to stand on their own.
Continuing a storyline and things of this nature, whereas Mandalorian comes in, it can be its own thing. It wants. Correct. So there are some restrictions that the new
had to adhere to.
And
Correct.
The
Mandalorian just had to exist in this universe.
Correct. Which they got dead on, man.
Dead on. Like, don't get this twisted. This is a Western.
For sure.
It's a mixture of Western, like old school for a few dollars more, good, bad, and the ugly. Also with older Japanese films like Lone Wolf and Cub. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of Lone Wolf and Cub. Usagi Yojimbo, that kind of, old Ronin samurai feel to it.
For sure.
I love it. It's the perfect blending of that.
And I want to say that, this whole Disney Marvel thing has had its impact. And you walked in the door and you were singing the original theme song or the theme song for The Mandalorian. Do it. What's the It's fantastic. For the first 6 episodes, I was like, yeah. What I can't stand is the opening scene that's like Marvel Avengers, like with the stars.
Oh, with the masks,
dude. It's too.
It was neat the first time, and then it kind of runs.
It's too on the nose for me for these universes. I get it. And I like the fact that we're getting our Star Wars Western the same way we got our Ant-Man robbery bank heist film.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't need to blend these things.
It's fine with me because you know what heals that moment where it has like the Star Wars faces and they're all colored in yellow and red or whatever is at the end of each episode they show you the production art, which is the most. I just want that shit on walls, man.
Forever.
It's beautiful. You know what sold me on this show? The episode was great. First, and we can just go into the pilot. But at the end of the episode, they show you the production art, and it's the most glorious, beautiful. Like, why aren't they selling these as art pieces, as posters? There's some imagery from this series that I just want on a wall. It's so nice, and I can't find it anywhere. Maybe they're holding it. I don't know. It's just amazing.
The Mando and Yoda walking in the sunset.
In the sunset.
Are you freaking
for real? Are you for real?
That's awesome, man.
Dude.
And there wasn't a huge debate, I guess, about making Baby Yoda.
There was a problem with that because they
CG.
They're originally going to make Baby Yoda CG, and Favreau and Taika and Dave were like, no, this thing needs to have weight in this universe. Apparently, Baby Yoda costs like $10 million by himself to automate, but man, that money is going to spread because quote unquote Baby Yoda is the mascot of 2019. He is the face. She is the face. We don't even know.
We don't know what Baby Yoda is.
And the problem with
Baby Yoda is the biggest surprise in Star Wars since I'm Your Father.
Since I'm Your Father.
And I wasn't around for that original go-round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I heard about it 8 years later, like I'm a little kid watching it. I didn't hear the gasp in the theater when people first were like, wait, what?
Wait.
But the gasp I had at the end of episode 1, bro. I screamed. It was 2:00 in the morning. I had just come home. I was like, it's Friday night, Saturday morning. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this. It's been a 20-hour long day. And I got into it. I ate it up. And at the end of episode 1, I literally screamed.
I had the opposite effect where I was eating dinner, watching the episode thoroughly entertained. I was like, this is okay. I'm aboard with this. And when it shows that the MacGuffin of the episode was this baby Yoda, because they don't have a designation of their species, I was quiet and I said, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. That is almost witchcraft levels of marketing expertise.
No, look.
You don't make that shit up. Like, no, it's too perfect.
And I know that we're doing a discussion, but for this to be a true discussion, this show for me stopped being about Mandalorian in episode 1. And that's
problematic.
That's
problematic.
Well, that's credible to what they did. Like, on screen with Star Wars.
Yep.
I think about how I feel about the prequels, the new ones,
and
then I think about how I feel about The Mandalorian, and they are two completely separate feelings.
Entities.
And it's like, why are we calling this the Mando's cool, don't get me wrong, but all the questions that came flooding into your head.
You know, the current word around the campfire is the Mandalorian title is not about the Mandalorian. It's about Baby Yoda.
You see,
being the Mandalorian.
Dude,
if this thing had like a 300-year time jump in like the future, and like Baby Mando is running his own Mandalorian group, that's money, man.
I hadn't even considered it. All I know is that it could have been titled Baby Yoda. They could have took Mandalorian out. They could have opened it with Baby Yoda. They literally could have just said, hey, look, guys, it's after Return of the Jedi. Psst, there's a Yoda.
Nah, dude.
And I would have been like, wait, huh? And that's where I am.
You know what this reminds me of? it freaking reminds me of the prequels and how right they could have got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if The Mandalorian is the prequels for this little creature's real adventure story? And they just pick up where from him.
I mean,
or her. We don't know.
Well, you know,
that would be neat.
I mean, not
what the future of Star Wars is, baby Mandalorian.
I'm kind of assuming, well, with the exception of
with these things lifespans, right?
Project Luminous that we have coming
the
up,
High Order and all that.
The High
stuff.
Order with that separate. This is the universe, right?
As it stands now.
I mean,
because this takes place in between the end of the Clone Wars and A New Hope.
Correct.
So in Yoda's, whatever they are, they live hundreds of years. The baby itself is 50 years old. So Yoda's live for like crazy amounts of time. So you can literally write your check with say, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, jump it 300 years in the future from the rise of the Skywalker, and just have a trilogy about this baby Yoda.
Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi.
It takes place after. Okay, I'm tripping. Thank you for that correction.
I have to
think about it. So it's in between The Last Jedi. It's in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens.
Okay, yes. I was 5 episodes in and I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
And I finally had to go look it up, which is why I had to go look it up again right now.
I would have been mad if I messed that up.
Am I sure? Because what I'm watching is so wait,
jarring.
What are you talking about?
And they don't ever say that in this series. And that's another thing I want to talk about is this series so understated that it doesn't tell you anything. There's very little talking in this series. It's all through action and movement, which is why I can't take anything away from the Mandalorian himself because I love an actor who is so comfortable in their own skin. They could do a role without ever showing their face.
And
I love when that happens.
I have to give a shout out, as that's a valid point, to my friend Conrad Hitchcock, who also said, hey, you know the difference between these two things? Is the new Star Wars tends to tell us, I am sad. And the Mandalorian uses 0 words to say, I am sad.
It's a subtle head nod. You know exactly how the Mando is feeling based on his body language. It's him shifting. It's him doing quick turns. It's him nodding his head. And without words, you could be like, oh, that shit bothered him.
And this is akin to the darkness that the original trilogy kind of brought to it.
Tell you everything.
Tell you everything.
And I love that about this series is that it kind of reveals itself to those who are paying attention, because there's Clone War nods in this series. There's, of course, Empire nods to this. There's even prequel nods to this series.
There is nods all over this.
And if you're not paying attention, it'll fly right over your head. And even the existence of Mandalorians is a nod into itself. Were you expecting to see a Mandalorian appear in this? We were expecting to see Boba Fett, but that's different.
But that's not.
And
the
what this taught me
Mandalorians.
is that Boba Fett and Jango are not Mandos. They're not Mandalorians. They're not. They are bounty hunters. But from what we understand is that they didn't follow the Mandalorian creed. They didn't belong to a clan. When we meet Jango Fett, he's a clone experiment on Kamino, right?
Well,
showing his face.
He's not an experiment. He's the clone.
He's the clone
he's
daddy.
He's the original. Yeah, he's the clone daddy.
You know
what I mean?
But according to this, real Mandos aren't supposed to show their face ever. This fucker's walking around drinking smoothies
without it all day long.
Even though we never see Boba's face.
Nope.
But his father, unless when he went back when he was a kid, I guess. But
and since we're taking an all-around view of this, can we talk about? Let's just talk about Boba Fett.
Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna pull out my wallet. You can't see this, but I have a Boba Fett themed wallet.
Okay, well,
I love me some Boba Fett.
I am asking the right person then.
Yes.
Do you need to see Boba Fett in this series?
Never again. Boba Fett is perfect where he is. And it's one of those things where you add one more season into that pie, you're going to ruin that pie. You add one more drop of vanilla to that cake, you're going to ruin that cake. Let Boba Fett exist where he is. And if these bastards in season 2 have some kind of stupid Boba Fett reveal where he's half robot or some shit, it's going to break my heart because that's the last thing I want for that character.
The talk of, or rumors, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not going to go.
We're not going to rumor monger here.
Like,
a little bit at least.
But the rumors of, hey, oh no, Boba Fett's going to be in The Mandalorian.
I
don't want to see it.
It would
man.
steal all the shine from The Mandalorian.
I just don't need it at
no.
all. It's unnecessary.
It's super unnecessary for this story. Now, if The Mandalorian showed up in other Star Wars stuff,
sure,
that'd be fucking cool.
Sure.
Like if an old Mando showed up, let's say in The Force Awakens, or the next Star Wars stuff, I'm okay with that because that's cross pollination. But you don't need stealing the shine away from The Mandalorian with another Mandalorian. Technically, another Mandalorian.
No,
that's like it's bad taste. It's as if Darth Vader showed up in Rise of the Skywalker. It's bad taste.
Never mind. No spoilers here from Brian.
Okay, because I still haven't seen that.
You haven't seen it?
I know how it ends, and the internet spoiled that for me through osmosis. I know how everything goes through osmosis. You could spoil it because I already know.
I'm not even sure I know how it ends. It took me a second to remember, but we're going to save that
that's a whole other
day.
podcast. But The Mandalorian,
I'm so glad we have The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. The Mandalorian gives me hope in Star Wars again, where I had no hope. I thought Star Wars was going to be this yearly cash grab that Disney has reduced it to, and all that good vibes and feeling I had as a kid was gone.
I am not going to go as far to say cash grab that Disney has reduced it to. That's a tad harsh in the Star Wars world.
You saw Rise of the Skywalker.
I did see Rise of the Skywalker.
What is it?
It is not a cash grab. It's not a cash grab. I'll go that far as to say that. I don't think The Force Awakens is a cash grab.
No.
I don't think any of them are actually, whatever the second cartoon is after the Clone Wars, it's pretty good, but I thought that was a cash grab. Rebels.
Yeah.
I thought Rebels was a cash grab, but it's still pretty good.
Uh-huh.
And the new one, that most certainly is something else.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was a cash grab. I would just say that, there's a story to tell. Disney's doing its best to tell it and trying, much like Marvel and DC, to give everything to everyone who cares about this universe.
Make
and
everyone
it is
happy.
Impossible
At all times.
They are just never
cater to the lowest common denominator.
Going to be able to do it.
It's because it's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. So it's not a cash grab, but it's impossible.
And maybe cash grab is a bit harsh.
But yes.
But I will say that everyone's trying to mimic Marvel's success. And it's impossible because it's lightning in a bottle.
Lightning in a bottle. I
don't know how Marvel doesn't even know what it's doing right now.
Hold on.
100%.
As we, because you can cut this into a different segment. Let's just break right there.
Let it rock.
But are we convinced Marvel can do what it did again?
No.
Are we even close?
I'm so worried. I'm so worried about Marvel because I still don't know what the hell they're doing. And that's like now. Marvel's now. And they haven't given us any inkling of any kind of future thing that feels real. This entire phase, and I don't want to get too far on Marvel.
Don't want to go too far there.
Phase 4 feels like a half measure, and it makes me worried.
Cash grab?
A cash grab? It's not a cash grab because they're doing new IPs, new characters. That's fine.
But they're going to make $1 billion, right?
Well, that's just
so it's a cash grab.
You put Marvel on you put Marvel Presents on a piece of shit. People are going to buy it
again. Don't want to go too far into that bubble, but I understand what you're saying.
But in relation to Star Wars, is that Star Wars has become this bloated thing that finally feels like it's starting to get on the treadmill and starting to almost thin out and it starts to balance out. Mandalorian feels like the balance Star Wars has needed since the acquisition of Disney.
For sure.
It's been this bloated thing that people are just tired of now. And my thing is that Star Wars is best when it's missed. When you have that rush and excitement. They're making a new Star Wars movie.
I want to wear a cape every day and pretend I'm a Jedi. I want to bathe in Star Wars. I do not want to bathe in Episode 1.
That's what I'm saying. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to bathe in that, man. I want to bathe in Mandalorian.
I just think
Episode 4.
I think Mandalorian brings it back to Star Wars, the original trilogy had a roughness to it. And even with the clinical empire versus the dirt and nastiness of Tatooine and of Dagobah and of, you know what I mean, of the major locales. Like, we're sitting here watching a scene where the Mando is covered in mud fighting a rhino beast, like in the first episode, I think. This is the most visceral Star Wars has been in forever. There was no dirt on anyone in episode 1.
It is not a box of crayons, man.
You know what I'm saying?
It is not.
There's
It's beautiful, but it's not.
The browns, the
bright
earth tones. It's beautifully shot.
Yes.
It's quietly
But,
executed.
Fucking Jon Favreau.
This is the way.
You know, like,
This
that
is the
dude
way.
knows what he's doing. He's got a couple of $1 billion under his belt already.
Carl Weathers is doing a perfect role as kind of the gray area Thieves Guild,
Let's hit
Bounties Guild.
The Bounties Guild. What do
Yeah.
you think about the whole Bounties Guild?
I like that it had its own personality versus, let's say, the redone Mos Eisley scene that's been done 1 billion times. It's them having a code, and that code even being corrupt because they're hired murderers, man. They're mercenaries. But Carl Weathers kind of being the leader of that group and putting everyone on blast because the Mandalorian is just too godlike, kind of adds another wrinkle to this story, which is kind of like, you broke the rules, you broke the rules. Let's try to sort, and even through the whole series, they try to sort it out with him. It's not on site with the Mandalorian.
The bounty, it gave me a sense of purpose for all the strange, weird characters in the Star Wars universe.
Yep.
And like you said, it was this collective of
Scum and villainy.
Yeah. Man. Han Solo would have fit in perfectly
with this squadron of people.
With Carl Weathers. Like, it would have been
choice.
I don't want to see young Han Solo ever again.
No, he's gone.
Anyway.
He can't hurt you anymore. Young Han Solo can't hurt you anymore.
You don't know that.
He just shows up through the door.
Anyway. I do like how it gave weight to other corners of the Star Wars universe.
Which we've been starving for.
We've been starving for.
Like, I love Jedi. Jedi's the coolest idea probably ever. But I'm so burnt on Jedi.
Man,
film wise,
God,
I'm so burnt on Jedi.
Sorry, no,
I want something else.
I can't.
I want my Star Wars horror movie. I want my Star Wars crime noir. I want my Star Wars rom-com. I just want anything else but Jedi.
The Force surrounds us.
But
it binds us.
But the cool thing, I'm not saying the Force. I'm saying Jedi.
Okay, all right.
Other like Baby Yoda is perfect because Baby Yoda is not a Jedi. He's Force sensitive. He's not swinging a lightsaber and doing, but he's using the Force.
Okay. All right.
So he's a fresh take on that.
As we skip over the Bounties Guild, Baby Yoda, man. Like, here's the thing. Everybody's talking about Baby Yoda. He's not a this dude is 50 years old sitting in this crib. Y'all don't know anything that this thing knows. And,
well, we don't know.
And the entire series, it seems like I heard, oh, he's a baby. He's a baby.
He's 50 years old.
Do you think this baby was just like, oh, hold up, let me just throw up this rhinoceros real quick? Or, oh, that dude's cut. Like,
it really could go either way?
I'm not sure Baby Yoda can communicate.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
But I think Baby Yoda has seen some things.
Some shit, yeah.
I think Baby Yoda has been around some things. And I think Baby Yoda fully is
aware
understanding
of everything that's going on.
Not aware. Understanding of everything that's going on.
I would think it would be a jump to shark moment if in season 2, hello Mandalorian, I've been observing you from a distance. I am Baby Yoda. I didn't want to speak with you until the opportune moment. That would be a jump the shark moment. But I like the idea of Baby Yoda.
50 to 900 years.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
There's some things they can do. There's some things they can't do. But from what I've gathered from this series, you're like, he's not a Jedi. Baby Yoda strikes me with the wisdom already of being 100%. A Jedi. Yeah. Being like, because we don't know where Baby Yoda comes from, which leads me to the last episode, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So good. But Baby Yoda, it just bothered me all season. How folks were just, oh, he's just a baby. Yeah, look at dude, this thing.
I think there's
this thing
more.
like wrecked shop.
There's got to be more than Baby Yoda that has been led on at this point. And until they give this thing, that's another funny thing about this show is that they didn't know how to market Baby Yoda because Baby Yoda is not his name because he doesn't have a name yet.
Take a quick second to talk about how Disney has completely fumbled the marketing
Because
of
they
Baby
didn't
Yoda.
know it was going to do what it did. How would they know?
What do you mean? You put $100 million in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's hands. The Lion King and his entire other list.
Okay.
And the Clone Wars, it's Star Wars. You knew what you had.
I think
and
there's, no, there's levels of expectation.
Hold on. As an
You know what I'm
eBay reseller, hit my store, ladies and gentlemen.
Watch out.
They just laid the smackdown on anything homemade, handmade that they made, that people have made because they're like, oh, well, we didn't make that. Well, hell no, you didn't make it. Where were you, Disney? You're Disney.
Either Disney has a freaking time machine and saw the future, or they predicted that Baby Yoda was going to become a meme god and take over 2019. I think there was an expectation of interest in that kind of design.
They
like I said, it was
have a teddy bear, bro.
That's what I'm saying. This
Like,
is their
we
teddy
can
bear.
go to McDonald's right now and find like this microphone or something in a plastic bag for a quarter. Like, they didn't have a teddy bear ready? You had nothing? No marketing?
I didn't think I honestly didn't think they thought it would get this crazy. Because Baby Yoda, I think they had an intention of thinking it was going to take off because it's Disney and it's something. But Baby Yoda's on a different level, man.
Dude,
That's some.
it's Baby Yoda.
It's that's what I'm saying. I don't think they thought it through. Like I don't think they
Then
thought
what's the story about?
it's about the Mandalorian.
So what you're telling me is that when they made the entirety of season 1, they had no interest in thinking that Baby Yoda would become a thing.
'Cause here's
so
the thing.
story isn't centered around.
They had stuff ready for Baby Yoda, but it wasn't going to be ready for Christmas. They
It's still not on the shelf.
Yeah, like pop vinyls and things like that. They were in production, like to be out like in February or something, March.
They're still not out.
I know it's like February, March.
This thing, Rise is over. What else do we have coming?
But what I'm trying to say is that I think they knew Baby Yoda was going to be a thing. Let's say A tier. They said Baby Yoda is going to be A tier popular, right? Which means that people are going to have an interest, a buzz is they're going to be talking about it. Baby Yoda is like triple S tier that they didn't expect.
Now look, we're going to start an MOTN marketing business podcast, and we're going to put this right in there because
it's
the
crazy.
business of this is important.
Yeah.
I think, and I just think that it was a missed opportunity by Disney.
It's
which,
100% a missed
you know
opportunity.
what? I guess you can't shoot them in because they're right so many times.
Yeah.
So like, fine, I can't fault you, but
I
for
just
the
think
love of God,
I just think Baby Yoda exceeded their expectations.
it's hard.
100%.
What was
They would have had to expect.
They knew what they had.
If they knew what they had, Baby Yoda's would have been ready to go.
They
in
knew
December.
what they had. You're telling me that
Disney
they
had-
thought after $100 million that they were putting out a show that was not going to catch on.
They
like
put in more
fire?
money to market less.
Hey, I guess that is a valid point.
I'm just saying.
That is
They
a
put
valid
way more
freaking
money into something
point.
they've marketed
I was
less.
about to say, have you seen Rise? Oh no. Okay, never
I'm
mind.
just saying.
Never
They had,
mind.
and that's why I'm thinking they undershot Baby
For the
Yoda.
love of God.
That's what I'm thinking. So let's talk about some of the side characters here. Other than Baby Yoda and Mando, the wolf and cub, let's talk about the people he meets along the way. The Nick Nolte character he meets on the first planet.
Did not know that was Nick Nolte till looking into show notes to do this show,
Yeah.
going through the list.
Neat,
Nick Nolte?
right?
What? Holy
Neat,
crap.
right?
That's amazing.
I have spoken.
So good.
So good. Interesting little character. Has his time to shine, like you were mentioning last episode. Felt it. I haven't felt anything so bad in Star Wars since the death of Vader. Spoilers. Felt it. The character and he showed up. He was sprinkled in the show because the Mando will go back to him to ask questions, things like that.
Yeah.
And he was there in his time of need and didn't want anything in return.
And he also bridged the gap that, yes, there is force because he knew what Baby Yoda was.
He kind of knew what Baby Yoda was
he's
going
like,
through.
Yeah, I
He's
kinda
been around long
seen
enough.
something like or heard something about
And to know he worked for the Empire during the Clone Wars was interesting. And now he was like, I've already been a dog of war. I don't want anything to do with that. Don't give me your money. I'm cool where I'm at. I'll help you because that's how I roll. I have spoken. And that was his thing. And I was like, that's perfectly fine for this kind of character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think it worked out perfectly.
I felt it when he left. I wish he hadn't, but I also didn't need to see him as like on the ship as part of the crew.
No, I'm okay with that.
You know, I'm good with that.
I think the Mando works best alone. Because even with Baby Yoda, he's still alone.
Well,
in a weird way.
What do we think about Kara?
I thought Gina Carano's character.
Yes, thank you.
I thought she was neat. I thought she added a well-needed representation on the show of a strong female character. I think she actually steals a lot of the scenes she's in. I like Gina Carano. I want her to do more stuff. She actually has really good acting chops for someone coming from a sports background. Not like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson levels, but she's very talented. And I think her character being this ex-shock trooper that's also a bounty hunter, kind of making ends meet, being this rough and tumble badass, kind of fits perfectly juxtaposed to the stoic quietness of Mando himself. So I think she adds a lot to the story. She doesn't feel forced. She's not in every episode. She's not the comic relief. You know what I mean? She just kind of fits in his weird, very tight merry band of kind of compatriots. You know what I mean? So
I'll give you that for sure.
I dig her. I really dig how mildly they did that character, but she still has her own personality, her own desires, and kind of her own.
I just think some of the episodes that she might have been in were not the best episode. Like the whole romantic episode with like the Yoda on the spaceship. He should stay here. You can.
Okay, that's a good question. Which episode stands out in your brain as your least favorite episode?
That episode.
Is that the episode where
it's
they had
episode 3 or 4.
The AT-AT in the village, where they're like protecting the village?
Even though the AT-AT did have a cool horror vibe.
They had a
one
very
shot.
Cool. That's what I'm saying. Like this is by far a perfect series. There's a lot of small inconsistencies. Like a lot of people's favorite episode is my least favorite episode, and that's the heist episode with where.
That's people's favorite episode.
That's a lot of people love that episode with Burr.
Yeah,
and Clancy Brown and all that. And it just seemed a little hammy to me.
God, me too. I did not think that was the strongest episode.
A lot of people love that episode.
And in fact, it felt kind of disjointed. Like, what
felt
are we
forced.
doing on this little adventure all of a sudden?
And some of the actors weren't as sharp. No. Like the person who played the Twi'lek bounty hunter, and she was just really extra and trying to be funny and just bouncing around. It just seemed to...
She looked batshit Harley Quinn crazy, though.
Yeah, I did.
I'll give you that. But
maybe
that was the problem. It was a tad bit over
the top.
Over the...
From what...
Like there's if Harley Quinn was on the screen, I would have been like, cool.
Okay, that's Harley.
That's fine.
But I don't know this character like that. And it was just such a jarring kind of adjustment.
Favorite episode.
That's what I'm hearing.
Wow.
People love that episode.
All right.
I mean, the way it was shot or something, whatever. But, you know, I think the side characters, like even not IG-88. What was his designation in this? IG... It wasn't the classic IG-88. It was an IG unit.
IG-11.
IG-11. Voiced by Taika Waititi.
Fantastic.
I always logistically tried to think as a kid, how can this thing be a bounty hunter? It's a puppet. This thing it looks fragile. Like I could just push it over. And what really sold me in the pilot is seeing IG-11 get loose and start taking out like dozens of dudes.
You were like, whoa.
That's tight. That was tight. Yeah. Like, okay, I get it. I get why the Mando's so afraid of robots, of droids, right. Because they're not playing games.
No,
that thing was swirling, and it looked so.
I was actually depressed when it kind of like
puttered out.
And I was like, I was like, cool. Man, I was kind of hoping this thing would stick around. Like,
I bet you were hyped when it came back.
That thing is epic. Yeah,
it came back. It was super hype. You know.
Same thing goes with in that episode, the heist episode with the bug droid. Mm-hmm. I also thought super cool, even though I know that they actually have a decent backstory.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it is, but at any rate, super cool like moment to. The droid was almost aware that it was smarter than everybody else.
100%. It knew it was the
dude.
smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
It didn't have time to explain stuff to them.
Correct.
And I love droids because in the Star Wars universe, I didn't know this until like yesterday, is that droids grow sentience the older they get. Droids grow sentience. They become, like, their AI gets to a point where they've learned enough and they're just sentient. They are able to crack the singularity as long as they just keep droiding. You know what I mean? That's why C-3PO was so charismatic, because he droided for so long. You gotta remember, C-3PO was around before before the Clone Wars.
Yeah, C-3PO's been around a while.
So he was just like a sentient creature.
And you should really get around to seeing Rise one of these days.
It's going to be on Disney Plus.
Anyway.
It's going to be on Disney Plus by my birthday. I'll check it
Go
out
on.
then.
All right.
But, the droids really had a real strong outing in this series. Even they brought back the prequel super droid, the black droids with the wrist cannons. That was neat. Stormtroopers had a very interesting dynamic in this series because they were kind of reduced to muscle because of the shattering of the Empire.
I know that a big controversial scene was the droid scene, stormtrooper scene, where they were going back and forth like regular people.
I love that scene.
You're okay with
dig
it?
it.
I thought it was okay. I think it went a little long, but I was fine with the dialogue.
It went
back
just
and
long,
forth.
far
the
enough.
fact that droids have personalities and
Yeah,
things of that.
I just didn't like that he socked out Baby Yoda. That's my only problem with the whole scene. That was a little forced.
Yeah.
But no pun intended. But I just think the way this show is done so subtly with its storylines, even the through line from the Mando himself, like you kind of and to derail my own trail of thought. What did you think of the Mando culture that they kind of laid out in the series? Fellow Mandos, the Forger, who was one of the cooler characters in this series.
The armor?
No, when he goes down to get his new armor pieces made, and his buddies are like, "Yeah, man, we used to be the stuff, man.
Well,
but now we're like, because you're effing up, we have to hide again and stuff, And they're like, this is the way. You just got to do how we do.
One of the things about Star Wars and playing Star Wars and knowing Star Wars is, I was stoked to see the Mandalorian culture just simply because I knew about their history with the Jedi.
Yeah.
So for me, that screams more Jedi.
Yep.
Whereas for you, you're not necessarily on that exact same train.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see them, and as we get into it, when we talk about our favorite episodes, like mine are booked in between the first episode
and the last
and the
episode.
freaking last episode,
Where she mentions Jedi.
To me,
in no certain words.
You're talking, okay, so we either get more Mandalorian versus Jedi, or we find out where Yoda's from.
Which could be Jedi.
Whatever. You've left these three as like what we're going to get for season 2. And I want
all of it.
Any of it. I
So,
don't care.
So mind you, I have a very my Star Wars 101. I could say is maybe a B plus, but I do know. Thank you so much for Knights of the Old Republic about the Mandalorian War, about the Great Jedi War, how the Mandos and the Jedi were interwoven at a point where, in no certain terms, the Jedi War destroyed the Mandalorian culture, or spread its seeds through the galaxy.
It was a war.
Mandos kind of feel a certain way about Jedi, and they don't see Jedi and Sith as differently. They see them as the same problem. A Sith is the same thing to a Jedi. Because there were
too much power is being wielded. You know what I mean?
And back then, we had stupid stuff like Gray Jedi and Dark Jedi and Light Sith. and just weird mixes of all that.
Things that we're about to get in Project Luminous, I'm assuming.
100%.
But go on.
The blending of that ideology where Mandos were just like, these are just these wizard bastards who just cause trouble with their ideologies throughout the galaxy and our whole entire culture. Because like you said, Mandalorians are the race. They're a creed. They're
creed.
They're like Ronin. They're like samurai.
Dude, or Spartans.
They're like Spartans. So it doesn't matter what race you come from. You put the mask on, we all look the same. This is the way, right? Correct. Which is something I always loved. This is super neat. This is the way. And you got to see a glimpse into like how they operate and how important it is to work on your own armor and perfect your own skill. And I love those scenes where the forger was making him new armor out of this god metal, this antimantium, whatever he was like trading in, and all the other homies were all jealous. Like,
the armor,
you sold it.
Such a great treat.
It's like you're making your armor out of Empire steel. This is kind of disrespectful,
Beskar.
And he's just like, I don't care,
dude.
The Empires, there's no more Empires. Just because that brand is there doesn't make it Empires.
Everybody's after, the uniform.
Yeah, I'm just trying to out here look clean.
I'm
bro.
just trying to look clean.
I'm just trying to look clean.
Which
Y'all
he does for sure.
Once he gets that remix, I'm like, this is an iconic design. It's so subtle. It's clean, but it's not dirty. It's clean, but it's dirty. You know what I mean? And the Mando has a sick cape. I just love everything about it,
dude.
It's the best design. How do you feel about the last episode where we finally got to see his face?
I mean,
some people are really upset about it.
I wasn't having the issues other people were about seeing his face.
I'm okay with it.
It's like, show me the face, don't show me the face.
It's okay.
Whatever. Like,
I mean, they had to do it.
Like it's going to be a little weird if you go through 3 seasons not showing this person's face.
And I'm happy they pulled off the Band-Aid.
But whatever.
They just cover it right back up. We know what he looks like now. It doesn't matter. Just pull off the Band-Aid. Don't make it a problem. Don't make it a thing.
No.
Because he's not going to take his mask off. It's fine. And apparently, the actor, what is it? Pedro
Pascal?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah,
he only did certain scenes. So a lot of it was the stunt guy. Which he's cool with it because it worked with his schedule. I'm cool with it.
Dude, it could be Bugs Bunny in the freaking Mandalorian. That's fine. Again, this show to me does not surround the Mandalorian anymore. The Mandalorian was a bridge, a gap to, hey, here's Return of the Jedi. You guys thought it was over. It was, obviously we got The Force Awakens, but hey, you know what? Here's this Force-sensitive creature, which was like the most powerful Force-sensitive creature in the world. We have another one.
That is interesting, because that's one of the few secrets of the Star Wars universe. We haven't gotten really a definitive answer.
We don't know jack
about
Yoda.
What is Yoda?
We don't know jack about
They've
Yoda.
never touched it.
I'm sure in a comic or two they've probably...
I mean, like in the expanded universe. But I don't even think in the expanded universe, they said he is a Slackledak. And Slackledaks come from this planet, and they live to be 500. No, I don't think that's ever happened.
We don't know what planet he's from.
We don't know how they reproduce.
People. We just know that he was 999 years old.
He was an ultra master. That's all we know. He knew all things Force. That's all we knew.
He was the go-to.
He was a mystery, right?
That's it.
Now,
so for me, again, like, it doesn't matter who the Mandalorian, like, there's parts of the Mandalorian I'm interested about, and if we get Jedi in here, it's going to be interesting to see the creed of the Mandalorian
put to the test
against the Jedi, being like, well, holy smokes.
We got to talk about the 800-pound Tauntaun in the room, which is the villains or lack thereof of this series.
I mean, there's only one
and we got him the last episode.
I was like, one episode.
Giancarlo Esposito. The last episode was the actual only true villain. This show is there's antagonists. There's the episode with the young bounty hunter that tries to come up over.
Oh God.
And that's probably the second worst episode of the series.
Good one, yeah.
I'm not a fan of that episode, but the person who wants Baby Yoda in the first place.
Yeah, Gideon.
He's not really a villain. He's just like a mob boss that you just have to answer to. He's not hunting them. Right?
Oh, okay. I thought that
I need the baby.
Gideon
for
is the one with the dark saber.
I will give you
You're talking about the mob boss.
I'm talking about the Esposito, the cape dude at the end with the dark saber.
Yeah.
He is going to be the antagonist going forward because he has the black. And people who know, it's like, oh snap, they're bringing the black saber in. That one time a Mando became a Jedi. And made a weapon for him that balances both Mando.
I mean, you go back and watch yourself some Clone Wars,
you'll know what's
see
happening.
one there as well, and it's like, or Rebels, you'll go back and see one as well.
I see. So it that unravels a whole another can of worms. Like, who exactly is this guy?
Well,
and Mando seems to know who he is too.
Where the hell did you get a dark saber after Return of the Jedi?
Exactly. Who exactly are you, man?
Well, unfortunately, we all know that, there's some strings being pulled right now. We don't know how they're being pulled.
I hate to be that guy. Palpatine's behind it all.
Oh, for the love of freaking
Palpatine's behind
God,
it all, dog.
It hurt me. Anyway, where did you get a Darksaber from?
You want me to give you the quick answer? Palpatine's behind it all.
Yeah, all right. That was kind of depressing. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. This series, as it stands now, for me, just to close this all up, is my only hope for Star Wars right now. The Fallen Order, the game, was neat, right? I thought it was okay neat. I watched people play it. Gameplay-wise, I can't talk about it. The movies are dead to me right now.
I don't know why people lost their minds over this. Just because it was Star Wars, I actually didn't see the story. I did play the game. I sold the game halfway through because I was like, "This is garbage." At any rate, I don't know how the story relates. I know people were losing their minds because they see something. Blah blah blah. Whatever. The game. Not fantastic, man. And I just wanted, because I have to.
Yeah.
Who has a game for, purely aesthetic reasons? You're given, an item, a weapon, and the only thing you can do with it is change its color in 2020. You pick up items for it, you can find things for it, but it doesn't do anything different when you get the item. It just changes the color.
But to be fair, it's a lightsaber. How much more can you do with it? They did everything they could. They made it a double-edged lightsaber. You can get the double-edged lightsaber. You can
find a cape that allows you to float longer. Why use the lightsaber? The game had so many small issues, literally gameplay mechanics that we have left far, far behind. I just was a tad confused what people are losing their minds over. But
it's Respawn. Like you said, it's Star Wars. That's going to sell it no matter what, firstly. Remember how crazy people were crazy about Battlefront until people realized that Battlefront was
I do want to play Battlefront 2.
You can probably play it now, and it's probably a good experience.
Yeah, I do.
They ripped out all that microtransaction nonsense, and it does have a story mode. So I'm hearing that Battlefront's a lot better it's in a better place than where it was during all that Congress nonsense.
I had more fun with Battlefront than I did Fallen Order, the original Battlefront, for sure, without a doubt, 100%.
Yeah, but
anyway,
Fallen Order is fine, but my point is
hope
that
for Star Wars.
There's hope for Star Wars, and I hope that they slow it down a little bit, which is fool's errand, because you know how Disney rolls. I mean, they're probably putting out something today that we don't know about.
How many Marvel movies do we got coming this year? 5?
Plus the Disney Plus stuff.
Plus the, dude, there's no slowing down.
but with speed comes mistakes. Haste makes waste. And Star Wars is not in a good place to where they feel they should just push this stuff out. Mandalorian's one shining light in the galaxy. In my opinion.
After seeing The Mandalorian, I was super stoked to see Obi-Wan.
That guy
super stoked.
But they're doing what I'm asking though. They pulled that back out.
Yeah.
Because the script's not good enough.
Yeah.
Mandalorian has set a benchmark. They're just gonna push that thing out. And it's like, everyone go home. The script's not where it needs to be. No. I'm super okay with that. I'm super okay with that. And
I asked
Fix it, make it better.
To a Star Wars friend of mine because for me, marketing wise, the timing of Mandalorian never made sense to me.
No, they kind of threw it out to die.
Because the Mandalorian came before Rise of the Skywalker, and it didn't just come before. It came 8 weeks before. It came right in full Rise of the Skywalker hype. When all we should be talking about is Rise. And I was, after watching Mandalorian, I posed a question to a friend, and I was like, why do you think they gave us Mandalorian when they did?
Because they weren't.
Do you think that and you haven't seen Rise, and we're not going to get too far into it, but do you think that those folks in the room, they knew what was coming with Rise?
Yep.
And they're like, hey, look.
This is going to piss people off.
We need to get in front of this and give some folks something that they can hold on, like me specifically, because I don't mind Force Awakens, Last Jedi,
fine.
Issues, Rise, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, but give people like me something where they're like, oh no, here you go. Be calm. It's fine.
Fine.
We got it under control. This other movie's going to be coming out, but you have Mandalorian.
And that's the thing where Marvel effed up and where Star Wars effed up. It's because their endings are so definitive. From my understanding of Skywalker, the ending is so definitive and so, this is it. I mean, there's room to grow, of course, but like you said, there needed to be a branch to swing out on for people to have a want for said product. And I'm here, and Skywalker's not doing it, Chief.
Bro, if I didn't have the Mandalorian and I had walked into Rise, we would be having a
Very different conversation.
very different conversation. In fact, and you know, I walked out of Rise going, I'm not sure I can call Star Wars my number one thing anymore.
That's what I'm
saying it half tongue-in-cheek, but also half like, really?
Really?
Like, what are we doing?
That's what I'm saying.
But I have the Mandalorian, so I literally, we literally left Rise, and my buddy who was on like episode 5 Mandalorian went home, turned it on. I was like, oh,
I feel
much
better.
It just
Feel much better.
And that was my second time seeing it.
Uh-huh.
So again, where did they know what was coming? And they're like, here's some Star Wars.
I think,
but I agree, it has set a new benchmark.
Yep. That's why they pulled back Obi-Wan.
Like if they could do the new movies again after Mandalorian, we'd be seeing different
But I think
movies.
they learned a lot from the new trilogy. They learned a lot that they need a game plan. They need a singular voice with these kinds of things. You know, too many chefs spoiling the pot is a saying for a reason. You know, they were pretty much writing the new trilogy as they were making them. Mandalorian kind of feels like someone sat down and thought this through.
Well, Dave Filoni knows what's going on in the Star Wars universe, which is one of the reasons why the Clone Wars stands out as
best.
so good.
Yeah, as the best content.
Because the storytelling is
it's consistent.
Consistent with our vision of the Star Wars world.
Yeah.
Whereas, no offense to JJ, love JJ Abrams, best television show ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alias, best television show ever. Anyway, you know, he's not Dave Filoni. And as I know that these people are in the room,
Yeah.
you know, Dave Filoni doing something, George Lucas doing something with Star Wars
Yeah.
is very different than a fan, the biggest Star Wars fan in the world,
Yeah.
being like, I know Star Wars.
I could write this episode.
Dave Filoni grew up with Star Wars,
Yeah.
like George Lucas next to his head.
It almost reminds me of like a Feige effect, where it's like, this guy knows this stuff so in and out that you probably should listen to what he's saying. And that's where Warner Brothers messed up with Jeff Johns. And Jeff Johns is one of the only people in the room at Warner Brothers who knows DC Comics, unlike anybody else. If you just let this man do what he needs to do, he'll right your ship in the right direction.
And
they gave that chance with Kevin Feige. They should give it to Dave.
Filoni was up for one of these movies, but because Clone Wars was all he had done, an animated television show,
They weren't going to give it to him.
They did not want to give how much? A $300 million budget?
Yeah.
You see, they gave him a $100 million budget, but they attached Jon Favreau with
As babysitter.
like, dude, here
It's
you go.
really kind of wrecked if you think about it.
But this dude right here, just go to him if
You know what
there's
it
ever going
reminds
to
me
be an
of?
issue with your vision.
It reminds me of Brad Bird. You know that director?
Yeah, I've heard.
Incredibles.
Incredibles, yeah.
He's a great director, right? Only did animation. No one wanted to give him a shot in real actual
Right.
live action. But they finally gave him Ghost Protocol, the Mission Impossible, and that's one of the best of the series.
Fantastic.
And it's one of those guys who's like, just give this man a chance. There's something going on up there that you're not getting. Just let him rock. And Dave, given the green light with this show, and now knowing the kind of money that went into this show, can possibly right the ship of Star Wars indefinitely.
If they freaking did you
If
see
they
the
let him.
trailer for the new Clone Wars coming out?
It looks amazing.
Dude, that's Dave
It's
Filoni, and you're like, wait, I'm excited about Star Wars.
Dave made
Didn't a movie just come out? Was I this excited about this movie?
No. Why do you think I haven't seen it, dude? I'm one of the biggest Star Wars marks I know. Because I know it's going to be trash.
I just saw it like 2 weeks ago. It's been out 2 months, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's fine.
But you have guys like this, these
Love
spearheaders, right? These people who know what they're talking about. If you just let them tell their if you let them handle it.
When you have these huge universes,
yeah,
these are the people that need to be in charge of them.
To keep them in check.
Just
to keep
like
them
Universal's universe of the... I'm sure that there's someone out there that knows the Invisible Man and all this classic horror.
Like the back of his hand.
Who could put together a vision that would bring it all together.
Not necessarily each individual micro part,
but the
vision is why Kevin Feige is like one of the most best paid people on the planet.
Yes, Wanda belongs here. She does not belong over here. Not even
Hulk's fine here. We can't have him here.
Brainiac Hulk? Who would have done that?
Yeah,
like he was like, no, he can go in right here.
He can do this here.
Yeah.
And Star Wars desperately needs someone like that. Because I'm sorry, Chief, Catherine Kennedy is not doing it. And giving it to J.J. Abrams is not cutting, because J.J. Abrams is not a storyteller.
Like, had J.J. Abrams had the second film, I would be interested to see what would have came
of that.
But you have a disjointed vision.
Which
that
is
Kathleen
why
Kennedy is in charge of. So I'm not putting her head on the stake, but you're the one in charge. So MOTN, movie business talk, you're the one in charge.
Hey,
Fix it.
Shit flows downhill.
Hey man, I'm sure Feige. What was the one Marvel movie that was
Dark
not so
Dark
great?
World?
I'm sure someone was like, "Yo, Feige,
figure it out.
Yo, bro,
fix it. What happened?
Whatever this was,
it ain't it, Chief.
We can't do that again.
Not
man.
again, bro. We love you, man, but we'll get you out of here.
Had another project, and they took that shit away from him. Yep. They're like, "Yeah,
we got to slow you down a little bit."
We're not
Obviously, we're kind of spreading you a little thin.
You need that vision.
But to go back to the Mandalorian, let's rate this bad boy. First season.
5 out of 5. I don't even have
five time.
The best thing I've seen. Let's put it this way: I have not watched another series with this type of speed. And let's also talk about the fact that Disney didn't put it out all at once.
No.
Did you like it or didn't like it? A lot of people had issues not being able to binge.
I'm okay with that. Because binge culture,
old school television,
made you miss it.
Made you miss it.
And what I've been saying this since I've known you. Star Wars is better when you make you miss it, make you salivate for it too. You know how great my homegirl was just saying the other day. It kind of sucks it's Friday night and I can't watch The Mandalorian.
Dude, I was so depressed that next week. I was like, "Oh, Mandalorian." Oh.
No, it's done. I have my Disney Plus.
You get that with binge culture.
You don't. And I forgot that it was piecemealed out.
And it also becomes a community
thing. It's another reason to gather around the watering hole.
Whereas binge culture is, I watched Castlevania.
Done.
Oh, great. A month later, you watched Castlevania.
Yeah.
We all watched the last episode of The Mandalorian all at the same time on Friday.
And it wasn't just gone in a weekend. Because, they released Daredevil Season 2. I watched Daredevil Season 2 over the weekend. After that weekend, it no longer existed to me. But The Mandalorian was spread out for weeks, and it kept me engaged. I needed to know what happened, and I had to wait it out like everybody else. But on Friday, guess what we're all doing? We're watching that episode of The Mando because it's rules, and now we have something to talk about on Saturday, Sunday. Monday.
I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I imagine that's what Game of Thrones was. Also not a bingeable
There's something to be said about the drip. Dude.
I wonder if we're about to see just the trend
resurgence of
back into the drip, because let's put it, the drip makes television a lot more money than the binge does, and it stays longer. I was watching, and you know, different subject. You can cut this out.
This is fine.
But I was watching another video, and they were talking about how quickly things come and go now.
Yeah,
and it's almost It almost sucks to get hyped for something or enjoy something, because it is literally gone within like a week. It's
the hype is gone.
Gone, the entire vibe.
Yep, you know, the hype, the electricity, it's all eaten away within days if you do it that way. if you just give the binge. And I think, like you said, and that's a brilliant thing you said, is that we're going to see the death of the binge. I think, because like you said, it stretches things out, and your product is going to get a lot more long-term revenue than if you were just to shoot it out.
Think about the pressure that takes off some of these people.
Man, we have to have all this done at once. Now, ready to go, where we can
all of it done.
Editing is pushed out. You know, you can't patch TV shows.
You
know
cannot patch a 8 season or an 8 episode.
You can't just be, we messed up on a part. There's a Pepsi can on the set of Mandalorian. We got to go clean that up. Cough, cough. Freaking games. But I just think that Disney is so damn smart, and they know like how to spread this out. Like 100%. Whatever next big thing that comes out on Disney Plus, maybe a Marvel property, maybe one of those new Marvel shows. And we're not going to see Obi-Wan anytime soon. No. That's fine. Take your time. But if they put out, like, let's say Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or She-Hulk, or Ms. Marvel, or whatever, and it's Fridays, and it's good, that's money. That's extended money. That's a reason to tune in.
The TGIF wasn't a thing
for a reason
until like ABC made TGIF a thing because they had Full House, Family Matters,
Step by Step.
Like it was the lineup. The family gathered around, and they were all
Friday
great shows.
And all great shows. And that lasted for a generation. That was the 90s.
And now it's like a thing.
It's a thing.
No. You ask a kid, TGIF, oh, thank goodness it's Friday. But what does that mean? That doesn't mean Step by Step is on the thing. Nah.
It's evolved into this whole different thing.
It's a thing.
Right? So, yeah, like, I would give The Mandalorian, honestly, a 4.5 out of 5, only because there's certain weaknesses and this is nitpicking, mind you. This is me, like, picking apart certain things. Like, there's certain episodes that I just didn't 100% jive with. Like you were mentioning earlier, the episode where they're in the village. And that's the one written by Bryce Dallas Howard, mind you. And they have to protect this small village and have like this montage scene of them training them how to fight. I just seemed a little slow pattern. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the heist episode, that seemed a little overacted.
Just keep romance out of my Jedi and superhero film.
I'm telling you, I'm the type of guy, I want a Star Wars based rom-com.
I don't
care. Just make it weird. Make it different.
It's called Episode 1. Go watch it.
I hate sand. It gets everywhere.
Anyway.
But yeah, me nitpicking, it's like a 4.7, 4.6, honestly. Just those little inconsistencies in the kind of status of the feeling. It took me out of it, and something that's so immersive like The Mandalorian, the more immersive you are, the harder the jolt is out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more you're deep in there, you get that pull. Like, that's bad acting.
And those episodes were disjointed.
Yeah, like that's bad acting. Or, this is kind of boring. Or, why is this woman trying to romance the Mandalorian? Like, what?
It's more... And I hate to say, like, oh, yeah, that's bad acting. But, yeah, you're like...
Yeah, like the Twilight, I just was like...
par with the rest of
this doesn't feel good.
And I know that you're competing against a puppet, but...
But at the same time, I'm like...
That's a rough gig.
But you're standing next to a man in an armor suit. These are two humans talking.
Face.
And you're in prosthetics. So you're fine. So we're talking to people... Why does this feel so bad? And those are the moments where I'm like, okay, maybe I can just go brush my teeth real quick. All right, let me go. Okay, while this stupid scene is happening, I'm going to go heat up my food. And those moments is why I can't give it a perfect score.
Also, thank you for the 23, 24-minute episodes. For the love of God, thank you. For the love of God. They had two 40-minute episodes. Fine. Do what you got to do.
Nice, digestible, bite-sized episodes. With all the production in the world.
Because any longer, I don't think it would have held if each episode was an hour. It wouldn't have held. Like,
no, that's why you got to give it that short burn. You give them just enough. You miss it. So when next Friday rolls around, like, I can't wait for this box set. I want them, if they ever do it, because they really, I want a Mandalorian box set with all the art and stuff. That's what I want on my shelf. I would buy that physical media.
$299.99.
Oh my goodness! You made me, I physically reviled in my seat.
Hey,
that's
man.
what they're going to charge us.
Disneyland is not cheap.
Freaking A, dude! And you're going to get like the nice Mandalorian bust that comes with it.
And the mouse
And you're going
is
to get
not
your
the
Baby
mouse.
Yoda keychain, and it's going to cost $399.99. And we're all going to buy it because we're saps. Any last thoughts about The Mandalorian before we close this out?
Watch it.
You notice we didn't go episode for episode because this show is easily non-spoilerable without talking about
I
it.
don't think we spoiled anything.
100%. It's this one of those
Unless you
shows.
didn't know about a baby
The
Yoda,
Yoda.
in which case,
How are you on this planet?
like, seriously, like,
But we didn't spoil any of them. The major plot points. We named some character names. But this show is very easy to talk about without spoiling it. So we just kind of our general idea in our review of the series as whole. Find a friend with Disney Plus. I'm sure someone in your family has it.
yes,
Take a
you
weekend.
can watch up to 5 people on one account. Disney did the family thing.
They did
so
the
that's
family
good.
thing. Find this series. Watch it. Get your own opinion of the future of Star Wars because I think this is it. I think they're going to learn a lot from this series, and hopefully they start talking because there needs to be there needs to be kid Star Wars and there needs to be adult Star Wars. And the problem is they've been mixing them. But there needs to be a Rebels and there needs to be a episode 6 where Darth Vader's on fire. And
Do you feel that way about Marvel?
yes, I think Marvel should, because when you cater to everyone, you cater to no one, right? So I think there should be child-friendly PG-13 Marvel, but I also kind of
Teenager friendly.
Teenager-
young adult
well, young
friendly.
adult friendly
Well, okay, that I
Marvel.
can get behind. When you were saying kid, I'm thinking,
I
hey
think-
man, I don't necessarily think that
I don't want
7 and
Muppet babies.
8-year-olds need
No.
Star Wars Muppet Baby television
But
show.
I think there needs to be a side of it that's a little bit more mature, a little
Yes.
bit content-wise. And I'm not saying it needs to be blood, sex, and violence.
No.
I just it needs to have heavier tones.
Like I said, themes, dark.
Like
That's,
a
yeah.
kid, unless he's a Star Wars fan, is not going to sit through The Mandalorian still.
Absolutely
A
not.
5-6-year-old, it's too slow paced. Their little brains are not going to.
Had my goddaughter in the room while we were watching it. Absolutely not.
Am I
going to sit.
am I lying?
Yeah, no, she's
off.
2. Not going to happen.
Off, right? So I think there needs to be two sides of these coins. I think there needs to be PG-13 mass market Marvel, but there also needs to be like Marvel dark. You know what I mean? Not even Marvel dark, like Marvel serious or Marvel
Let me ask
Marvel
you a question.
mature, you know?
The X-Men series from the 90s.
Yep.
Kid themed?
No.
We watched it when we were what? Preteens?
Yeah, about most people between like 7 and 14.
That's about as young as I ever want
My
my
stuff
Star
to
Wars
be.
or I understand comics may have to skew a little younger, but
Yes.
as far as like
Star
mass
Wars?
produced, that's as young as I ever want to
like,
go.
and what I'm asking is not to be on the big screen. I just want it to be digestible. Like you could keep the kid friendly Star Wars. I want to take my son to go see Star Wars Episode 10. That's always needs representation. But having stuff like The Mandalorian 2 for us older people, for us mature fans, is just the perfect garnish to the other side of the spectrum, where it's I want to take my 5-year-old niece to go see Star Wars.
I mean, he blew a hole right in the droid's head.
a guy got cut in half by a door.
Oh yeah.
The droid suicide bombed like 10 living stormtroopers.
Pretty good.
Spoilers.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
I'm not going to say what droid.
We had almost made it.
I almost made it. I'm not going to say what droid, but that happens. Once again, Brian, thank you for having this talk with me.
Thanks for having me. Please have me on when we do the Star Wars world introspective as well as the Rise Star Wars, because I have thoughts.
Thoughts and ideas. And if you like this kind of content, support us monetarily on our Patreon. That's Patreon.com/MOTN, where if you feed money into our IG-88, it will actually spit out bullets and improve content. That's just how it works. But if you want to support us non-monetarily, 100% love that. Leave a like, comment on our content, maybe it be through YouTube or through Twitter, which is @MNerdiverse, and subscribe to our channel so you are given access to all of our new content as it comes out regularly. Once again, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, I would like to be the first to thank you and welcome you to the Nerdiverse. I've, of course, been your host, Mike G, and I will always ask you to look towards the skies. Look towards the skis.